So today it's Wednesday, so I'm going to be talking What If Wednesday. I like to use little, in case you haven't figured it out, I like to use little catchphrases or whatever for the different days of the week. Past few weeks, it's been Awesome Wednesday, emphasizing some of the stuff with AWS. And today is What If Wednesday, because I always thought the concept of what if was pretty interesting. It's usually when you talk about what if, you're talking about, what if I made different choices in the past? And there's nothing you can really do to change that. You can dwell on it, but it doesn't do any good. So what I like to do is what if I make a different choice today? What happens for me in the future? So a lot of the reasons I have that mentality is just because a little bit of my past. And part of, let's go ahead and show you what I was talking about. And sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. So this today, What If Wednesday, was actually inspired by this tweet from LinkedIn. If you could give one piece of career advice to your 20-year-old self, what would it be? So I started thinking, when I was 20, which was 21 years ago, my mindset. So I was going through my first divorce. I had a 1-year-old. And I was 20 years old. I was thinking about going back to college. See, whenever I graduated high school, I had to a lot of different colleges, I did well academically in high school. So I had a lot of different opportunities for going to college. I had OSU. I can't remember where I got opportunities I had. But I also remember I had 2 full ride scholarships for the University of Rio Grande because I did so well academically. And I just kind of let that squander. I just quit. I don't want to go to college. I'm sick of school. And I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you're in that age range where you just graduated high school, it's you are so sick of school, you don't even want to think about school. Okay. But you gotta. Okay. I don't know what else to tell you other than you gotta. Because, you gotta think about your education. You gotta think about the future. So what kind of career advice would I give to my 20-year-old self? I would tell myself to go back to school. I didn't actually end up going back to school until I was 24, and that was after my second divorce. But no, I was 26. That was after my second divorce. And I figured out I need to learn how to depend upon myself. So what career advice would just go back to school and invest in your education, because ultimately what I've learned and discovered is education. The tagline I like to use is education equals opportunities. That is really 100% accurate. Education equals opportunities, whether it's through degrees, college degrees, or it's through certifications, or whatever it is. Education equals opportunities in whatever capacity education means. So, and I also kind of thought when I saw this quote, and I started thinking about Richard Branson. So Richard Branson, I think, is one of the most followed people, if not the most followed person on LinkedIn. I'm a huge advocate for LinkedIn. You need a LinkedIn account. I tell that to my students consistently. And there's just one of my favorite quotes from Richard Branson. If someone offers you an amazing opportunity, if you're not sure you can do it, say yes. Then learn how to do it later. And that's where education comes in. Okay. So what I found when it comes to education is anybody can acquire it. It's just a matter of putting the effort to do it. The time and the effort. And trust me, I know that's easier said than done sometimes. I think what's key is finding something that you are interested in. Okay. And that is a huge component of succeeding. And just, learn how to do it later. If somebody offers you an opportunity to do X, Y, Z, and you're only familiar with X, but Y and Z sounds pretty interesting, and you would like to do this, say yes, and just, make sure you give yourself the time and the resources to learn how to do Y and Z. Say yes and figure out how to do it later. Love that quote. And I've lived that more than once. But it always works out because I invest in the education part and self-education and the resources. I'm constantly learning, constantly researching, constantly listening to podcasts, watching tutorials, doing whatever it is I need to do to succeed in Y and Z when I'm only familiar with X. Does that make sense? So for my what ifs, what if I cannot go back to this 20-year-old. I can't make changes now when I'm, what I did when I was 20. I can talk about what if maybe I wouldn't have the student loan debts because I had all the scholarships. Whenever if I actually use my scholarships, maybe I won't have the student loan done. Yeah, but I can dwell on that. Or I can just what, if I took that path, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now for a variety of different reasons. And I like where I'm at right now. I've learned a lot to get me to where I am. So if you are in the 19, 20-year-old mindset, trust me, I relate. Just, you're done with school, but you need to make sure you're investing in your education, whether it's the degrees here or our short-term certifications here. You need to be investing in something. Okay. And if you are someone who was more, if your experiences so far in life are more in line with what mine have been, it's just like chaos and, uncertainty, a lot of uncertainty, but you kind of figure things out. It's not too late, because what I tell, people that, we talk about education, it's like, well, I'm already so old, or I'm already in my 30s, or I'm already whatever. And it's going to be 2 years before I finish. Well, it's like, well, you're going to be 2 years older, whether you do this or not. Might as well, if you start today, where are you going to be 2 years from now? Okay. There are two paths that you can take. You start today in one path, that will go up, or another path that would probably most likely just be the same place where you are right now, and just wish that you started 2 years ago. So I have, kind of off that Richard Branson mindset. I found this really interesting TED Talk YouTube video. It's about from 2014. So it's 9 years ago, give or take, 9, 10. Math, 7 years ago. So I'm not going to play this entire video because it's a little longer than what I want to, but I will put the link in the comments if you want to watch the entire thing. But basically, this is a talk that he did over a prison, I think, out of California. And what this prison is trying to do, and again, this is in 2014, and I haven't researched how successful it's been yet, so I don't know where it's at right now, 7 years later. But anyways, what they're trying to do is trying to reform. Everybody makes mistakes. Like, we're talking about what if. What if I didn't make that bad decision whenever I was 20? Talking about, people who are in prison. What if I didn't make that decision? What if I just didn't, follow that crowd? What if I did this or did not do that? So many kinds of what ifs. Can't do anything about that. What if you make a change now? So there's a couple of different segments of this video that I thought was really interesting. I want to go ahead and play it. And again, I'll put the link to the full video down below in the comments.
He's in charge of the livelihood of 60,000 families around the world. I found that incredible. Number two, he's about to start commercial space travel this year. We're going up.
And that happened this year.
United Kingdom's #1 Twitter user, and he's the world's most followed person on LinkedIn. But what I thought was absolutely incredible is that in 2004, he established his nonprofit Virgin Unite to tackle both social and environmental problems, and strives to make business a force for good. Most of his time now is spent working with Virgin Unite, his nonprofit. So, yeah. Richard, so 5 years ago, I read a blog on Virgin.com, which completely blew my mind. You wrote and sent it out wide that talking about how you hired former offenders and what great work they did for your company and how hard they worked, and you encouraged other CEOs to hire former offenders. And then throughout the years, I saw you really dive deeply into the discussion around the drug war. And every time I told somebody that you were coming to speak today, the first thing everyone asks is, why does he care? And I'd really like to know why Richard Branson cares about this issue.
Well, first of all, I'm not an expert at all in this issue. I've come here to listen, to learn, and hopefully from learning to try to do more. I think so many of us mess up in our lives. I was lucky I messed up when I was 19 years old. I thought I could get away with not paying some tax. It's not a good idea. And ended up a night in prison. I was fortunate. My parents had a house. They were willing to mortgage the house. I didn't have to spend longer in prison. And I think that's a system that's flawed. Why should people while they're waiting on bail who can't afford it go to prison, and people who can afford it not go to prison? But that's another subject. That moment just being in prison, made me, first of all, realize I didn't like the idea of going to prison. So from then on, I think I've managed to, make sure I make decisions where I can sleep well at night and avoid that. But I've also just learned that if you give people a second chance in life, and I had a second chance, I wouldn't have been employing 60,000 people, I suspect, if I'd spent 2 or 3 months in prison. If you give people a second chance, they can do great things. And I think if you can give people the dignity of work when they leave prison, if you don't just dump them on the street and tell them to make their own way to the nearest city, if you can give them a chance to stand on their own 2 feet, make people realize that they're loved and that they're cared for. And I thought what the lady said earlier about looking forward, not looking back, is fantastic. So I think as many companies as possible, need to get out there and take people on and give them a chance. And I think they'll be surprised how successful it is.
Thank you. So some might say employing someone coming out of prison is a risk. Some might argue it isn't. I read you sold Virgin Records, which was your core business, and leaped into the airline business, which was not your core business, and that was a risk. We have a couple hundred inmates sitting in the crowd today that took some stupid risks and have made some good decisions. What advice would you give them in terms of what risks are worth taking and what risks aren't?
Well, I mean, look, I've met, maybe 50 or 100, fairly superficially when I came in. And it's fantastic that I think pretty well everybody in this room is studying because A, I think it'll make their time in prison a lot more interesting to study. And B, it's going to give them that much better a chance of getting a good job when they get out. It may even, turn them into an entrepreneur. I mean, basically an entrepreneur is somebody who comes up with an idea that can improve other people's lives and make their lives better. That's all that business is. And I think, you people have got time here to think about, when they get out, what could, do they have a hobby? What could they do to make other people's lives better? And so, possibly rather than going and working for somebody else, people here could actually start a business when they leave, and start in a small way. I mean, I started literally in a really small way, like handing out leaflets outside concert halls and selling music, getting the money in from the leaflets and then sending the music out, and just one thing led on to another. So. You don't have to dream big straight away. Just try to get the nuts and bolts of your business.
And I love what he said about that. Things tend to build organically. You start with one little step and then it kind of builds up on that. So if you have any ideas or anything that you're wanting to build on, you don't have to have like the big brand picture. It's like, okay, that looks interesting. I enjoy it. There's a need. Let's build up on that. So, and then you just might need to invest in your education. You might need to learn how to study on something. Like I said earlier, if you know how to do X, but you don't know how to do Y and Z, you study Y and Z. There's so many infinite resources out there, whether you're coming here to Hocking College, or you're learning on YouTube or any other platforms that are out there that you can learn how to do Y and Z. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to another part of this that I thought was interesting. Let's see if I can find it. I think it's right about here.
It's quite a strain on the families to travel, hours and hours, from other cities.
You mentioned the draconian sentencing that we have in this country. My question to you is, do you think our behavior while incarceration should be considered in regards to our release date?
No, look, I'm certain that the behaviour whilst you're in prison you should get benefits from it. And would you mind telling me what you think?
Well, I think that seeing that we're a part of such a groundbreaking idea as far as the educational system within California Department of Corrections, being able to obtain degrees now and to really change our aspect and the way we think and what we're able to accomplish, I think that it would be even more motivational for us if it was considered, like, for instance, we have, like I said, the college program here has completely changed not only the way I feel about learning, but the way I look at life. I understand now that what I do as an individual affects not only me, but everyone around me. I didn't understand that when I got locked up. I thought it was just all about me, me, me. But now that I have some type of education, I understand that we are all we're equally a part of a bigger whole. So I was just, like I said, I think that if those behaviors were considered, I came in, I didn't have a college degree. Now, thanks to the system, in June, I will receive 4 degrees. I think that should matter. And if I have a pattern of not being disciplined, no disciplinary actions or anything like that, I think that should be considered on an individual basis.
So what I loved he said about that, and is the fact that education has changed so much for him. Oh, shoot, where was it? I'm trying to find it. See if I can find it. Anyways, you saw it. He talked about how education just, he didn't know that much. He didn't have the education before when he went into prison. And then, but the prison system and for the prison reform and the education, that there are opportunities in there, that he has a better understanding. So it's again, education equals opportunities. So whenever we ask, just want to end this with, like, whenever we talk about what if, a lot of times, like I said, we talk about what if in the past. What if they didn't make the decisions that they made? What if I didn't make the decisions that I made? And I have no regrets on my decision. Okay. My kid is now 21. He was been my rock and he was the thing that kept me going forward in that. And if you can relate to that, what if we could have made different decisions when we were younger, or if you're young now, think about what if you start now, where will you be in 2 years? Will you be on your way to a more established career, where you have some more income? There's a lot of things you can do. What if, what you're thinking more than what I do. So, I just want to close out, when you're thinking, what if, think about what if you start something today, where will you be in a year, 2 years, 4 years, whatever, in years. And think about that. Don't worry about what happened in the past. You can't change it. Just focus on the future. So if you have any questions on anything, we're actually having a quick start this evening at Hawking College, Wednesday, July 14th. I think it starts around 4-ish or so. I'll put the link down in the comments. But if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out in regards to our certificates or degrees or anything else of that nature. Thank you, guys. Let's see.